Official case summaries. Unaltered footage. Transparent justice. You are watching Bodycam incident reports.
Open the gate! Noise complaint! Everyone back here needs ID!
Music's off. This is private property. You don't have consent to enter.
I smell weed. That's probable cause. I'm coming in.
No, you don't. Say that lie again on camera.
Are you refusing a lawful order?
I'm refusing an unlawful one. Step off my fence line.
It was 4:15 p.m. on a humid Saturday afternoon in an upscale subdivision of Plano, Texas. The smell of hickory smoke and barbecue sauce hung heavy in the air, mixed with the sounds of 70s R&B and children's laughter. And in the next 18 minutes, what started as a family celebration would transform into a masterclass in disciplined civil rights and the destruction of a corrupt officer's career. The man standing behind the grill, calm as a frozen lake, wasn't just a grandfather flipping ribs. He was Command Sergeant Major Rhett Jeremiah Brooks, and he had just been ordered to get on the ground in his own backyard for what he immediately recognized as absolutely nothing. Before we dive deeper into this explosive encounter, where are you watching from? Drop your city and state in the comments below. And if you believe that a man's home is his castle and his rights don't end just because he's black smashed that subscribe button, this story is going to make your blood boil and you won't want to miss how it ends. Jeremiah Brooks was 58 years old and a living monument to American service. He had spent 26 years in the United States Army, the majority of it with the 101st Airborne Division. He had completed 7 combat tours, 3 in Iraq, 4 in Afghanistan. He held a Silver Star for Valor, 2 Purple Hearts, and a master's degree in strategic security studies. Since retiring, Jeremiah had founded a high-end cybersecurity and physical risk assessment firm. His clients included Fortune 500 companies and government contractors. He wasn't just tough, he was brilliant. He knew rules of engagement better than he knew the back of his hand. In the military, a bad decision meant death. In the civilian world, he knew a bad decision meant prison or a lawsuit. But here is what made Jeremiah particularly formidable in this situation. He suffered from hypervigilance, a remnant of his service. He didn't just buy a house, he secured a perimeter. His property was equipped with a commercial-grade surveillance system, including 4K audio-enabled cameras covering every inch of his yard driveway and street frontage. He didn't install them out of paranoia. He installed them because he knew the reality of being a black man in America with a nice house and a nice car. He knew that eventually someone would ask if he belonged there. His antagonist that afternoon was Officer Shane Miller, a 34-year-old 8-year veteran of the local police force. Miller was the kind of officer who wore his sunglasses on the back of his head and referred to citizens as civilians with a sneer. His personnel file was a minefield of redacted incidents. He had 14 use-of-force reports in 3 years, triple the department average. Miller was known in the precinct as a roamer. He didn't like staying in his assigned sector. He preferred cruising into the wealthier, diverse neighborhoods, looking for things that didn't fit. His colleagues knew he had a problem with authority, specifically when that authority came from a person of color. Miller viewed the badge not as a shield to protect, but as a sword to enforce his will. Statistics would later show that Miller issued citations to black homeowners for noise violations, unkempt lawns, and parking infractions at a rate 5 times higher than white homeowners in the same subdivision. He called it quality of life enforcement. The community called it harassment. That Saturday, Jeremiah was hosting a birthday party for his 10-year-old grandson, Dante. The guest list was a who's who of black excellence in the community: doctors, teachers, small business owners, and a few active-duty military personnel. The music was playing at a reasonable volume. Jeremiah had actually used a decibel meter app on his phone to ensure it stayed below the city ordinance limit of 65 decibels at the property line. He was that kind of guy. Jeremiah was at the smoker basting a brisket when the silence of the street was broken by the aggressive screech of tires. A patrol cruiser mounted the curb, 2 wheels on the grass, blocking Jeremiah's driveway. Officer Miller exited the vehicle. He didn't adjust his belt. He unsnapped the retention strap on his holster. He didn't walk to the front door. He marched straight across the lawn toward the side gate that led to the backyard. Jeremiah saw him coming on the external monitor mounted near the patio. He wiped his hands on a towel, signaled for the DJ to cut the music, and walked to the gate. He didn't open it. He stood 5 feet back, hands clearly visible, waiting. Miller reached the fence, his face flushed. He rattled the latch violently. It was locked. "Open this gate!" Miller screamed, his voice cracking with intensity. "Can I help you, officer?" Jeremiah asked. His voice was a low baritone, steady and devoid of fear. It was the voice of a man who had negotiated with tribal warlords and briefed generals. "We got a noise complaint," Miller spat. "Open the gate now. I need to ID everyone here." Jeremiah didn't move. "Officer, the music is off. If there was a noise complaint, consider it addressed. This is a private event on private property. You don't have permission to enter, and you don't have the authority to ID my guests without reasonable suspicion that a crime has been committed." This was the moment Miller usually bullied his way through. Most people panicked. They opened the gate. They apologized. Jeremiah stood like a statue cast in iron. Miller's eyes narrowed. He looked past Jeremiah at the crowd of people, black men and women drinking iced tea, eating potato salad. He didn't see a birthday party. He saw a challenge to his dominance. "I smell marijuana," Miller lied. It was the oldest trick in the book. The odor of cannabis had been the pretext for millions of illegal searches over the decades. "That gives me probable cause. I'm coming in to secure the scene." Jeremiah actually smiled. It was a cold, terrifying smile. "Officer, I am going to tell you this once. No one here is smoking marijuana. This is a dry party. My guests include a federal judge, 2 surgeons, and active-duty military officers subject to random drug testing. If you claim you smell marijuana, you are lying and you are manufacturing probable cause." "Are you a lawyer?" Miller scoffed, his hand resting heavily on his service weapon. "No," Jeremiah replied. "I'm a taxpayer and a combat veteran who knows exactly what the Fourth Amendment protects. You are standing at the curtilage of my home. Florida versus Jardines. You cannot enter this area without a warrant or exigent circumstances. A fabricated smell does not constitute an emergency." Miller's face turned a shade of crimson that clashed with his uniform. He wasn't used to case law being cited at him over a chain-link fence. He made a move to climb the fence. "I'm giving you a lawful order," Miller shouted, putting a boot on the chain link. "Step back, or you will be arrested for obstruction." Jeremiah took 1 step forward, pointing a finger directly at the camera lens mounted on the eaves of his house, then at another on the oak tree and another on the garage. "Officer," Jeremiah said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming deadly serious. "You are currently being recorded by 6 high-definition cameras with audio. This feed is being uploaded in real time to a cloud server and my attorney's office. If you hop this fence, you are committing armed criminal trespass. I will not resist you physically, but I will destroy your life legally. Do you really want to end your career over a brisket?" Miller froze. His boot hovered on the fence. He looked at the cameras. He looked at Jeremiah. He looked at the guests who had all silently pulled out their phones and were recording him. A wall of lenses. "You think you're smart?" Miller sneered, stepping down but keeping his hand on his gun. "I can tow every car in this driveway. I can call for backup and turn this whole party upside down." "You could," Jeremiah agreed. "And that would add harassment and official misconduct to the lawsuit. It's 4:22 p.m. The sun is shining. There is no crime here. The only disturbance of the peace is you." Miller looked around. He was losing, he knew it, but his ego wouldn't let him walk away cleanly. "This isn't over," Miller threatened, pointing a finger at Jeremiah. "You watch your back." "I always do," Jeremiah replied. "That's why I bought the cameras." Miller turned, stormed back to his cruiser, and peeled out, leaving tire marks on the asphalt. The encounter had lasted 18 minutes. Jeremiah turned back to his guests, apologized for the interruption, and told the DJ to turn the music back on but keep it at 60 decibels. Jeremiah didn't just go back to eating ribs. He went to his office. He pulled the raw footage from 3 angles, the face-to-face, the wide shot showing the peaceful party, and the street view showing Miller's aggressive arrival. He edited them together with timestamps and a clear audio track. He didn't add commentary. He didn't need to. He simply titled it, Officer Trespass Attempt, Plano TX, False Probable Cause, and uploaded it to Twitter, YouTube, and sent a Dropbox link to the local NAACP chapter. By Monday morning, the video had 4 million views. The contrast was what made it viral. On one side, a screaming, red-faced officer looking to instigate violence. On the other, a calm, dignified black grandfather protecting his family with nothing but knowledge of the law. The lie about the marijuana was particularly damning. The video clearly showed a wholesome scene of children playing and elderly relatives sitting in lawn chairs. Comments poured in. The discipline of that man is incredible. I would have lost it. I will destroy your life legally. Coldest line ever spoken. Fire that cop immediately. He was ready to hurt someone. The Plano Police Department was inundated. Phones rang off the hook. Their Facebook page was flooded with demands for Miller's badge. The chief of police, a pragmatic man who was trying to modernize the force, watched the video and put his head in his hands. He recognized a PR nightmare, but more importantly, he recognized a liability. Internal Affairs opened a file. Usually these investigations take months. This one moved at light speed because Jeremiah Brooks's lawyer, a shark named David Sterling, filed a notice of intent to sue the city for civil rights violations within 48 hours. The investigation unearthed the rot. Miller hadn't been dispatched to the house. There was no 911 call for a noise complaint. Miller had called it in himself after he arrived, claiming loud party and disorderly conduct to dispatch. He had hunted for a conflict, but the smoking gun came from the body cam footage. Miller hadn't turned his camera on until he was at the fence, a violation of policy. However, the department's new cameras had a 30-second buffer. They captured video, but no audio for 30 seconds before activation. The buffer showed Miller sitting in his car across the street for 10 minutes watching the house. He was just watching black people having a good time in a nice neighborhood, and his face caught in the reflection of the rearview mirror showed pure disdain. He had texted another officer, "About to go shake up this zoo on Willow Lane." Zoo. That one word recovered from his department-issued phone sealed his fate. It proved racial animus. It took the case from overzealous policing to hate crime territory. 3 weeks after the birthday party, a disciplinary hearing was held. Miller arrived in a suit looking far less aggressive than he had at the fence. His union rep argued that Miller had made a good faith error regarding the smell of marijuana and was concerned for the welfare of the children. The review board played Jeremiah's video. Then they played the buffer footage. Then they projected the text message on the screen. The room went silent. Jeremiah Brooks sat in the back row wearing his dress uniform army green stripes on the sleeve chest full of ribbons. He didn't say a word. His presence spoke for him. He was the embodiment of the state's failure to respect its own defenders. Officer Shane Miller was terminated effective immediately for conduct unbecoming dishonesty, violation of the Fourth Amendment, and racial discrimination. But Jeremiah wasn't done. The civil rights lawsuit proceeded. The city attorneys knew they couldn't win. If they put Jeremiah Brooks on a stand in front of a jury, a war hero harassed in his own backyard by a cop who called his family a zoo, the jury would award him the keys to the city. 6 months later, the city of Plano agreed to settle. The payout was $450,000 to Jeremiah Brooks for emotional distress and violation of civil rights, plus $120,000 to cover his legal fees. But the reform was the part Jeremiah actually cared about. The Brooks Decree, as it came to be known locally, mandated 3 major changes. First, the check-in rule. which meant officers could no longer self-initiate noise complaint investigations in residential zones without a verified caller or audible proof recorded on body cam from the street for at least 2 minutes. Second, curtilage training, requiring every officer in the department to undergo an 8-hour seminar on Fourth Amendment rights regarding private property, specifically focused on the Jardines ruling. And third, zero tolerance for bias, stating that any officer found using dehumanizing language like zoo in official comms would face immediate termination, bypassing the standard warning system. In the aftermath, Jeremiah donated a third of his settlement to a local program that helped veterans integrate back into civilian life, and another third to a legal defense fund for wrongful arrests. He bought a new, even bigger smoker with part of the rest. Shane Miller didn't fare as well. Losing his certification meant he couldn't be a cop in Texas anymore. He moved to Florida hoping to restart, but a simple Google search of his name brought up Jeremiah's video. The fence line incident followed him like a shadow. He eventually found work in uncomplicated security for a trucking depot, working night shifts, checking clipboards, a job where he had no gun and no authority over the public. 1 year later, Jeremiah threw another birthday party for Dante, who was now 11. The music was playing. The ribs were smoking. A police cruiser drove slowly by. The officer behind the wheel was young Rookie. He looked at the house. He saw Jeremiah standing by the fence. The officer slowed down, gave a respectful wave, and kept driving. Jeremiah nodded back, then turned his attention to what mattered his family. So what can we take away from Jeremiah Brooks's masterclass in composure? What should you do if you find yourself staring down a badge at your own fence line? First, understand the concept of curtilage. The Supreme Court has ruled that the area immediately surrounding your home, your porch, your yard, enjoys the same protections as the inside of your house. Police generally cannot enter this space to conduct a search without a warrant or exigent circumstances, like chasing a fleeing felon or hearing someone screaming for help. A noise complaint does not give them the right to enter your backyard. Second, remember that silence is your shield and knowledge is your sword. Jeremiah didn't scream. He didn't curse. He used specific legal terminology: exigent circumstances, reasonable suspicion, Fourth Amendment. This signaled to the officer that he was not an easy target and that he understood the legal boundaries. Officers are trained to take control. When you demonstrate you know the rules better than they do, it disrupts their decision cycle. Third, recognize the lie of "I smell marijuana." This has historically been the get-out-of-jail-free card for bad cops to bypass the Fourth Amendment. However, many courts are now becoming skeptical of this, especially without physical evidence. By clearly stating on record that the party was sober and citing the caliber of guests, Jeremiah created a contemporaneous record that challenged the officer's lie immediately. Fourth technology is the great equalizer. Without those cameras, it would have been Miller's word against Jeremiah's. The police report would have said, "Subject was belligerent and refused lawful orders." The video proved the subject was calm and the orders were unlawful. If you are a homeowner, invest in cameras. They are the cheapest insurance policy against tyranny you can buy. Fifth, don't open the gate. This is crucial. Physically, the fence is a barrier. Legally, it is a boundary. If Jeremiah had opened the gate, a lawyer could argue he consented to the entry. By keeping it locked, he forced the officer to make a choice, break the law to enter or walk away. He forced the officer to commit to the violation. Sixth, military discipline applies everywhere. Jeremiah treated the encounter like a tactical situation. He assessed the threat, maintained his perimeter, and didn't let emotion cloud his judgment. You don't have to be a ranger to think like one. Take a deep breath, slow your heart rate, think before you speak, and finally, follow through. Jeremiah didn't just let the officer drive away. He pulled the footage. He filed the complaint. He sued. Accountability doesn't happen by accident. It happens because people are willing to do the paperwork and fight the battle after the adrenaline fades. This story isn't just about a barbecue, it's about the presumption of guilt that black men face even in their own backyards. It's about the arrogance of power that assumes a badge grants access to every inch of private soil. Jeremiah Brooks defended his country for 26 years overseas, only to find he had to defend his own home from the very government he served. But he did it. He held the line. We need more people who know their rights, and we need fewer officers who think they are above them. If this story inspired you, or if you learned something new about your property rights, please share this video. Send it to a friend, a veteran, or anyone who owns a home. Knowledge is contagious, and it's the only cure for this kind of injustice. I'm curious, would you have kept your cool like Jeremiah, or would you have opened the gate? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss a story about real people fighting back. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there.
Report officially finalized. To ensure you see future transparent records, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching Bodycam Incident Reports.